Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Rolf. Good evening.
How are you?
Shalom, Rav. Shalom. Hi.
All fine, thank you.
Just gonna put a picture. Sorry, I didn't connect myself. I'm just admitting everyone so they can join us. Okay, now you can see. Hello, Dr. Levy.
Shalom, Rav. How are you?
Erev Tov, how are you? Give us the news about Eretz Israel before we start the show.
Okay, just something nice. I was like in downtown Yerushalayim on the way home, and things are really opening up, and it's amazing to see people. Especially even on like Yom Ha'atzmaut, everybody was like out there, they're barbecuing. It's called here mangal, but Baruch Hashem, it's back. It seems back to normal again. So it's incredible. It really is. So we're just very grateful that most people have had the vaccine, and I hope we get it in Joburg and in South Africa, and it really does work. You see the difference.
I believe that in public, open space, you don't have to wear a mask.
Yeah, it's not mandatory. But on the trains, people still are very careful. I've come into contact with a lot of people that in the closed spaces, they're still wearing the mask, which is a good thing. But in the public space where you're breathing the fresh air, you don't really need it.
Good. Baruch Hashem. It's very good to hear the good news from Eretz Israel. Thank you, Dr. Les.
Not at all.
Okay, I would like to take the opportunity to remind those that didn't count the Omer that yesterday was 20. The count yesterday was 20 for the Omer. So just remember, those of you that didn't count, they have all night to count. Yesterday was the 20 days of the Omer. So Be'ezrat Hashem, na'aseh v'natzliach, v'Hashem alenu berachamav yarviach. I'm going to mute everyone and I'm going to start the shi'ur, Be'ezrat Hashem. The subject of the shi'ur going to be, as I promised, that we're going to speak about Kemach Chadash. What is Kemach Chadash? I'm going to explain what is Kemach Chadash because we spoke about it 2 weeks ago when we spoke about the Parsha. So now I'm going to explain that. Okay, so the Hazal tell us, first of all, we're going to dedicate the shi'ur Le'ilui Nishmat Esther Kaden Bat Ketzia, Mordechai ben Rahma, Harav Avraham Haim ben Eliezer Yaakov, Tamar bat Zehava, Rachel bat Malka Sultana, Rivka Lea bat David, Esther bat Moshe Levy, ויהושע בן סרח, נשמתם תהיה צרורה בצור החיים. לרפואת ליאורה בת מרים, שמואל בן מנשה נג'י בן פרחה, אורנה בלומה בת מרים, הרב אברהם בן מרינה, הרב שלמה יהודה בן דליה, הרב משה בן דבורה, התינוק ידידיה זליג בן אשירה רחל, משה מאיר בן חנה, חיים נחום בן צבי הכהן, חנה שרה בת דבורה, דבורה בת אסתר, שלמה פנחס בן שיינה פישה, מרדכי דוד בן לאה ומשה בן דבורה. בעזרת השם רפואה שלמה to all of them ולכל חולה ופצועי עמו ישראל בכל מקום שהם. What are we gonna decide to do tonight? We're gonna speak about Kemach Chadash. What is Kemach Chadash? We're gonna explain today, we're gonna explain the law. Is it applicable for us in the diaspora or not? Or is just applicable in Eretz Israel? Be'ezrat Hashem, we try to tackle it slowly, because that's what we've been asked. You remember when we spoke about, when we learned Parashat Shavua, so our friend Stephen Kabetsnik asked me, can I do a show about Kemach Chadash? What is Chadash? Okay, so first of all, where is the source for it? The source for it comes in Parashat Emor, in chapter 23. There is it say in verses 10 until 14, okay, it says like this, Ki tavou el haaretz. When you're going to come to the land, it's referring to the land of Eretz Israel, okay? Asher ani noten lachem, that I will give it to you, uktzartem et ktsira. That means when you harvest, okay, the grain of the what do you call it? The grain of the wheat, okay? Ve'evitem et omer reshit ketzirchem, that you should bring the first pile, the first small pile of that you harvest, to the Kohen in בית המקדש, והניף את העומר לפני השם, לרצונכם ממחרת השבת יטיפנו הכהן, ולחם וכלי וכרמל לא תאכלו עד עצם היום הזה. That means after you brought it, after the day of the Pesach, the Kohen should wave it up in the air, like we explained what is Korban Pesach, but before that you're not allowed to eat nothing that made from that any bread that make from it, for example, that we're not allowed to eat wheat, barley, oats, spelt, and rye. Right. Okay, so those are the 5 grain. What is really Kemach Hadash? Now we have to tackle it. What is Kemach Hadash? What is everyone making that saying Kemach Hadash, or in here they call it Yoshin? First time that I heard about it, Yoshin, for me it was old, but I couldn't understand what is people asking me about it. What is it? So I done a shiur, the same shiur, matter of fact, I done 4 years ago. No, 4 years ago. 4 years ago I done this shiur. I just repeated. So Akadosh Baruch Hu, as we see, command us that any crops that grow from the grain of the 5 species that we mentioned, that it's wheat, barley, oat, spelt, or rye, we're not allowed to eat from them, okay? We're not allowed to eat from them if it's been harvested before the Pesach. We have to wait for them after the 17th of Nisan in Eretz Israel, and in the diaspora, we have to wait for them, to wait for them until the 18th. That means that people are not allowed to eat in the 16th, although that Pesach is already finished, because the Pesach was when? On the 15th. But only the Korban Pesach they bring when? On the 16th. So only on the 17th you're allowed to eat from it. Okay. What's happening? How does it work? So I'm going to start in a time that Beit HaMikdash was exist. In the time that Beit HaMikdash was exist, they used to bring the Korban HaOmer that we brought. And the Korban HaOmer used to brought in the 16th of Nisan. We explain what is Korban HaOmer. Okay, and from that Korban that they used to bring, that used to give a permission to eat from the new grain that there is in Eretz Israel, one of the 5 species that we have. Okay, so from here we see that the 5 grain that we're talking about only allowed after we bring the Korban Pesach, that it's on the 16th, that means in Eretz Israel on the 17th of Nisan, and 18th of Nisan in the diaspora. What's happening, a matter of fact, in our time today? That was in time of Beit HaMikdash, that on the 16th. So in our time today that we're living, that Beit HaMikdash does not exist, we still, there is a prohibition. There's a prohibition, we'll see that there is a mahloket. Some people say it's the Rabbanan, some people say it's still the Oraita. We'll bring all of that, Be'ezrat Hashem, later. We have to understand that it's prohibition not to eat new grain, everyone agree. Until when? So in our time is only from the 17th, as I mentioned, in Eretz Israel. In Eretz Israel. In the diaspora only on the 18th. That prohibition come after the destruction of the temple. Rabbi Yohanan ben Zakkai, the Gemara in Masechet Sukkah, bring in page 41, bring the opinion that Rabbi Yohanan ben Zakkai constitute that we're not allowed to eat new grain in Eretz Israel until the 17th, in the diaspora only in the 18th. Okay, now I would like to go a little bit and speak about regarding the law of it, okay? So the Gemara in Masechet Menachot, in page 68, folio 1, Hazal there explained that the prohibition of a new grain, it's a custom, it's a prohibition even in our days, it's also from the Oraita. That means the prohibition of eating new grain, okay? It still exists today, although that we don't have Beit HaMikdash, and it's a prohibition from the Torah. That means that it's a negative command from our holy Torah. Although the Gemara in Masechet Kedushim in page 36, folio 1, and also the Mishnah in Masechet Orla explain that there, that the prohibition of that we're not allowed to eat new grain, okay? It's a prohibition that applies to Eretz Israel and to all the world. That means in the diaspora. And that's, by the way, pasken by the three big Rishonim, the Rif, the Rambam, and the Rosh. Why am I mentioning the Rif, the Rambam, and the Rosh? The Rif, the Rambam, and the Rosh, they was the pillow, the Rishonim, and they was the pillow that how the halacha been pasken. What does it mean? That the Marana Bet Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Karo, and also the Rama, that Rabbi Moshe Iserlish, the all, when they basic the halacha, when they decide, they basically, when they pasken the halacha, they go on according to the Rishonim, because the Rama and the Marana Bet Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Karo, they are Aharonim, okay? So they base the psak halacha that they have according to the three pillar, and they are, I repeat again, that they are the Rif, Harambam, Ve'arosh. And there was the basic one, that we pasken halachot. So according to them, we see that to eat Chadash, that means a new grain of flour, one of the 5 species, it's applicable to Eretz Israel and to the diaspora. Although in the Gemara in Masechet Kedushim, we see something very interesting. There is a big mahloket, but in the Gemara in Masechet Kedushim in page 37, folio 1, now not 36, folio 1, 37, folio 1, we see that it's referring also to the field. Is the field have to be a Jewish field, that means where those 5 grain growing, or it can be a field that owned by a Gentile. That means there is a Gentile that is a farmer, and he grow one of those 5 wheats, okay? Is the law of new grain applicable to him? According to Hazal in the Gemara, what we see there, that means from what we see that the maskana of, we come to conclusion that the maskana of Rabbi Eliezer, okay, we learn that Rabbi Eliezer made effect pasken lechumra, and he said that also in the diaspora, a field that not belong to a Jewish person, and he grow it and he sell it, and from that they're making later on bread or whatever they make from it, pasta and etc. And also that it's not belong to a Jewish person, there is still applicable the law of new flour. That means Kemach Chadash. So we see from here, let me just summarize everything quick, that we see that number one, that Kemach Chadash is a new flour that come from the new crops that you're harvesting, and that wheat, barley, oat, spelt, and rye, okay? Those the 5. Whatever you make from those, okay, that consider as a new grain of flour, okay? We're not allowed if it's a new grain, Then is it applicable in our time? We explained that there is a mahloket that according to some of the poskim, it's still prohibition from the Torah, okay? Then come the different mahloket, okay, that we say that is it applicable in a diaspora? We said that also it's applicable in a diaspora. The third thing that we try to achieve and to answer, that if the field, a matter of fact, belong to a non-Jewish person, and he grown there 5 of those 5 species, and those crops, if they make from them bread, pasta, I don't know, whatever have to become, even a crackers, okay? Or even, so according to the Gemara, we see that there is opinion in the Gemara in Masechet Kedushim in page 37, folio 1. We bring the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer that he said that we see that Chadash, it's also in the diaspora. Okay, so we answer all of that, we summarize. Now, the next thing that we're going to try to achieve tonight, to understand, how did we decide what is a new grain, what is an old grain? And that's the major question that become into it. Until now, we learn what is the crops that make it and where is it made. But how do we can achieve and decide what is a new grain, what is an old grain? Okay, so we have to understand that if one of those 5 grain, okay, that been planted or been sown in the ground before the Pesach, remember that, if it's been planted before the Pesach and it's rooted, okay, that's the most important, and it's been harvested after the Pesach, okay, that means that it's planted before the Pesach and it's rooted before the Pesach, and then after the Pesach we harvested, that's already considered as an old grain and we're allowed to eat from it. Okay, but grain that been planted, okay, after the Pesach, and here comes the but, the big but, and they've been harvested before the Pesach, the following Pesach, that means that they've been planted after Hag Pesach, like now, it's planted today, okay, for example, and we harvest that grain before the Pesach of Tafshin Ayin Bet, that means next year Pesach, okay, that if they've been harvested, we're not allowed to eat from that 5 grain, from that crops, until the night of the 17th of Nisan in Eretz Israel, in the diaspora, until the night of the 18th of Nisan in the diaspora. So we see from here something very interesting. We see from here that it depends when you plant it, when it's rooted, or the right word to say, when those things being germinated, when the root of that being germinated, okay, and that's the most important. So Hazal explained to us like this: if it's planted before Pesach and it germinated before Pesach, and you harvest it after the Pesach, you're allowed to eat from that grain. That's considered already Kemach Yasham. Kemach Chadash, a new flour, if you harvest it after the Pesach, and you planted it after the Pesach, and you harvested before the Pesach, that's considered Kemach Chadash. Kemach Chadash, that we're not allowed to eat from it. Now we have to understand the next move. How long does it take for the roots to grow, or the right word to say, for the seed to germinate in the ground? And here there is a big mahloket. And that will help us to understand all what we explain. According to Trumat Adeshen, it's Rabbi Moshe Isserlan. Rabbi Moshe Isserlan, born 631 years ago, he born in Germany, okay? And according to him, it takes for the seed to germinate it 3 days. Once that you plant it in the ground, it can start to germinate in 3 days. After 3 days, it germinates. According to the Gaon Mivilna, okay, that's Rabbi Eliyahu Mivilna, he born 301 years ago in Lita or in Vilna, it doesn't make a difference. Also the Dagul Mirvava, Rabbi Heskel Landa. Rabbi Heskel Landa born 308 years ago in Poland, and many other poskim, they say no, we don't agree with that. It takes the seed to germinate, okay, it starts to germinate only after 2 weeks from the day that you actually plant it. That means there is a mahloket here, how long does it take to germinate? Because if we go according to Trumat Adeshen that it takes 3 days, then a lot of the flour, a matter of fact, gonna be immediately, we're not gonna have problem. But according to most of the poskim, that it takes 2 weeks for the seed to germinate in the ground, we learn that, number one, we see from here that it have to take 2 weeks. And that can explain to us. Now I'm going to come to something else. What is it? We'll see from here that if a person, for example, in Rosh Chodesh Rosh Chodesh Adar, this is a good example. A person in Rosh Chodesh Adar, okay, plant one of those 5 species, okay, in Rosh Chodesh Adar. And that grain that he plant, we say that it takes 2 weeks, okay? So if it's been harvested in a month of Iyar or in a month of Sivan, now we Iyar, the next month is Iyar, okay? Those what do you call it? Those grain or those flour that came from those 5 grain will be allowed. Why? Because we say, listen to that, we say that it takes 2 weeks for the grain to germinate. So we learn from here that already in Chodesh Nisan, in the 17th of Nisan at night, it's already been germinated. Why? Because 2 weeks after that, in the 14th of Adar or in the 15th of Adar, it's already germinated. So we have no problem with that. So we see from here that we're learning that's very important. How long does it take to germinate? So we learn from here, number 1, that according to one opinion, the lenient opinion of Trumat HaDeshe, that takes 3 days. The opinion that most of the poskim go, that's the Gaon Mevilna and the Dagul Mervava and rest of the poskim that say that it's take for the seed to germinate in the ground, it's take at least 2 weeks, okay? Minimum 2 weeks. So we learn from here that very important halacha, Rabotai, that if you plant that seed in Rosh Chodesh Adar, that it's a month before Nisan, it's actually before Pesach, that it's a month and a half, okay? Because it takes 2 weeks to germinate, so it's become the 14th of Adar, and then you harvest it. Obviously, you have to harvest it after Pesach. That's the secret. You can't harvest it before the Pesach, because if you harvest it before the Pesach, it's a new flower. But if you harvest it after the Pesach, okay, that means in Eretz Israel on the 17, in the Diaspora on the 18, that's already considered as an old flower and you're allowed to eat from it, okay? But from here we learn a different halacha, that halacha, we learn from it that the new flower, it's a matter of fact, it's a prohibition from the Oraita. The Oraita is from the Torah. Okay, now, how do we pasken? How do we pasken today regarding new flowers? There is a big mahloket on it, Rabotai, and in Eretz Israel, first of all, everyone agree, in the land of Eretz Israel, everyone agree that Kemach Chadash, that means new flower, it's the Oraita. It's a prohibition from the Torah. No one even have any mahloket. The question become, is in Chutz La'aretz, in Diaspora, that new flower that been harvested before the Pesach, are we allowed to eat it before or not? Why? Because maybe that's what the Torah tells us, Be'artzechem, when you come to your land. But there is a different thing. Other poskim say, Be'moshvotechem, where you dwelling, where you staying. So is it in Eretz Israel or only, is it also in the Diaspora or only in Eretz Israel? So most of the poskim agree that the prohibition of new grain in our time is Isur Deoraita also in the Diaspora. And that's what the Maran Shulchan Aruch Rabbi Yosef Caro, that born in the city of Toledo in Spain 531 years ago, in Siman Resh Tzadik Gimel, it's 293, Sa'if Bet, he said that also in the Diaspora, it's considered as a prohibition from the Torah. Ado, here comes the Mahloket. Here comes the Magen Avraham. the Magen Avraham in Siman Taf Pei Tet, that means 489, verse 17. Okay, there he say, by the way, the Magen Avraham was Rabbi Avraham Abli Levy Gumberger. Okay, he born in Poland around 381 years ago, and he said that in the diaspora we don't have, okay, the prohibition of a new flower, and also the Rama intend to agree with that. So we see the mahloket that there is. According to Maran Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Karo say that the new grain, it's also prohibition, also in the diaspora. According to Magen Avraham and also the Rama, he agree that in the diaspora, it's only rabbinical, it's not from the Torah. That means the prohibitional, it's rabbinical. So we see different halachot regarding to a new flower. Now I'm going to stop and I will give time to ask question regarding that before I will continue. So if you have any question, please unmute and ask question.
Rav, I have a question.
Sure.
Today, with flour being made commercially, how would the Jewish bakeries know which flour they're buying, if it's old or new?
Very
so
good.
we buy our bread from a kosher bakery, but do we know what flour it is, or do they know what flour it is?
Okay, so if you look, first of all, the Beit Din release a list that you can get into it through the internet. If you go to the Beit Din, they'll tell you which flour is new, which flour is old. And also, if you look carefully, when did they manufacture? For example, if you take a pasta, let's take a pasta, for example. At the pasta, they tell you when is it been manufactured. And usually, if they manufacture it, let's say today, when I say today, I'm talking about the month of Iyar, okay, for us to understand, or April for you to understand. You usually know that that flour already been harvested and been ground definitely before Pesach. Why? Why? And I explain to you why. Because first you have to harvest it, you have to clean it. Okay, then you have to go through all the process to prepare it to become flour. And after it's become flour, you have to bleach it. It takes quite a bit of time. After it's been bleached, only then it's been sold to the company. Let's take, for example, Fetis and Moni. And only then Fetis and Moni will start manufacturing the pasta. You agree with me, Mark?
Yep.
So it's quite a long process. You agree with me? So
Yep.
if it's harvest, if you know that it's wherever you're in a month, you know that it's been harvest when before the Pesach.
Yep.
Today is not because we after Pesach, so it's become. But if you know, for example, you want to know, can you eat the pasta in January, February? Okay, that it's before Pesach, nachon? That's when it's become the problem. The problem become that if it's January, February, when is it been harvested? Before the Pesach. When is it been made? Before the Pesach. Only if you see that it's been manufactured after the Pesach of last year. So then it's okay. You follow what I'm saying?
Sure. But how do you know? It's, I mean, you go and buy a packet of biscuits that says, like, for example, salty cracks are made from wheat, and they don't necessarily, you don't know when the flour was made or processed.
No, you don't. It's very, very difficult to know. That's why there's the Beit Din, that they know, and they're speaking to baker and to all of those manufacturers, and they have plus minus idea when is the flour that they're using, because usually the flour that they're using is from the year before, at least a year before, from what I understand from one of the Dayanim when I spoke to him. But sometimes it can happen that they use Kemach, and that's where you have to be careful. And that's why you have to look about what the Beit Din publicized. And Baruch Hashem, here the Beit Din tried to publicize, tried to stick to it, that we will know when is the Kemach Hadash, when is not. Nachon, you're right, but most of the Kemach, if I'm not mistaken, when it's come to biscuit, when it's come to usual flour, it's most of it, it's usually, most of it, it's Yashan. But you obviously have to look at the date, because sometimes there's flour that is still Hadash, and you can't use it. So the Beit Din tell you, for example, baker or Zesko, whatever you call them, that from that day to that day, that consider Yashan, and you can use it. But all the rest, it's a problem. And usually what they do, so people cut and start buying the old one straight after Pesach to keep, because that's already Kemach Yashan. It's an old flour. Any other question, if there is?
Thanks, Rob. Thank you.
Pleasure. I hope that I explained.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Any other question, Rabotai? Okay, so we learn from here that Kemach Hadash, it's number one, in Eretz Israel, it's a prohibition from the Torah. Number two, we learn that there is a mahloket, is a prohibition, that the Kemach Yashan is a deoraita also in the Espra. According to the Marana Bet Yosef, that's Rabbi Yosef Karo. Rabbi Yosef Karo say that according to him, it's a prohibition from the Torah. According to, we brought the Rama and we brought the Magen Avraham, that it's rabbinical. Now we have to understand, why is it so important to us? What difference does it make to me? Okay, what is Kemach Yashan, Kemach Hadash? What is the idea behind it? So to understand that, we have to go to Sefer HaChinuch. Sefer HaChinuch is Rabbi Aaron Levy. Rabbi Aaron Levy, a matter of fact, born around close to 780 years ago. And he born in Spain, in Gorondia. And he explained like this, Mishorshei mitzvah. He explained what is so important, why is it so important to keep the new flour? So he said, Mishorshei mitzvah. What it means, Mishorshei mitzvah? The source, okay? And the idea behind keeping that mitzvah, לפי שעיקר מחייתם של הבריות היא בתבואה. What does it mean? He said, because most of the human being, okay, what do they make? How do they live? By eating bread, okay? ועל כן ראוי להקריב מהם קורבן לשם אשר נתנה. What does it mean? That we have to say thank you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu before we eat from it. And what is the korban that we give in? How do we thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu? That we bring korban omer. You remember we explained that korban omer made from barley. I don't know if some of you remember, or for some of you that wasn't in the show, I'll just repeat it quick. That in Erev, in the first day of Sfirat HaOmer, that means straight after the first day of Chol HaMoed, in the time that Beit HaMikdash was exist, they used to make a field outside Jerusalem, and that field that they used to plant barley, they used to have it, if they used to take that 1 kilo, 560 grams, and they used to harvest the barley while they're green, they used to roast it, then they used to grind it. I'm just making the process quick. And then with that barley that they roasted, then they used to grind it, and they used to make from it a kemach. Kemach is a flour, and that kemach, that flour, used to be korban ha'omer. I'll just make it very quickly just for you to understand. So that korban that they used to bring in the first day of Chol HaMoed of Pesach, they used to bring it to the Kohen, they used to bring it to Beit HaMikdash. That's used to say, that's korban to that, to say thank you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to say thank you for the livelihood that you give us, that we're living from what? From the flour. So we see from here that one of the basic thing is to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Also, Hazal tell us in a Gemara in Masechet Brachot in page 35, 35 folio 1, 35 folio 1, that if a person eat from any fruit or anything that he eat without the brocha, that means נהנה מהעולם הזה בלא ברכה, that means that he benefit from this world without a brocha, it's considered kema'al. What does it mean ma'al? That he stole. So what are we doing? We're coming here and we're saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, okay, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're bringing that korban to you and we're preparing ourselves to eat from that new korban, from that new flour. How do we do that? By that we thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu and we're giving the korban, okay? And by that we're giving it, we're actually making ourselves that we're giving the korban to receive the prosperity that will come from heaven down to earth. That means by that we give the korban, we actually saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, thank you, and we're opening all the channels of prosperity to come down to earth. That means that we'll have a brocha in our crops, okay? So what does it mean? That the korban ha'omer, it's actually a tools for us to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu, number one, for all the livelihood that we're getting, and number two, to say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, beside thank you, it's kivyachol, kind of, to say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, listen, we brought a korban, now open the channel to bringing us prosperity down to earth. That's mean, by that we're saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, open the channels, and the prosperity will come down, we actually not stealing from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why? Because we're given the korban. By that we're giving the korban to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're thanking him, number one. Number two, we're doing another act. What is the act? The act that we're saying HaKadosh Baruch Hu, here we brought a korban, now we done our jobs, please do atonement to all our sins, and don't close those prosperity channels. The opposite, open them and let us have it. And that's Mishorshei mitzvah of the Korban Hadash. That means that Kemach Hadash, the new flour, what's hiding behind us, number one, that we have to give thank you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and number two, the major key behind it, that we're opening their prosperity. That means all the livelihood, okay? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu will open his livelihood to us, that we can have a good year. And that's what we say, Bepesach, the Gemara in Masechet Psachim, Gemara in Masechet Psachim say, Bepesach, okay, that, no, Gemara Masechet Rosh Hashanah, Masechet Rosh Hashanah, Daf Tet Zayin, okay, Bepesach, that means in Pesach we get judge. What it means we get judge? HaKadosh Baruch Hu judge, okay? Judge the Tvuah, you remember? Danim et Tvuah. That means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Pesach will tell how much profit we have in our livelihood. That means in Rosh Hashanah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu judge how much money a person will get. But בפסח נידונים על התבואה. What it mean נידונים על התבואה? That means on Pesach we get judged what's going to be the net income that we'll have from our money that we've been declared or been judged to receive on Rosh Hashanah. That's Masechet Rosh Hashanah, Daf Tet Zayin Amud Aleph. So we see from here that what's hiding behind Kemach Hadash, there is a secret here. We don't understand. It's given the korban ha'omer, that's we saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, now we're allowed to eat from the new grain that you've given us, but also there is what we do in Kivyachol, there's a remedy, and that's the secret, the remedy to open the channels that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will judge us favorably, please God, after Pesach and the first day of Chol HaMoed, that how much the income, the net income that we'll have this year will be, please God, is much more, that the income, the net income will be much more. And that's the secret. And that's what Hazal tried to explain to us in the Gemara in Masechet Rosh Hashanah. And Rabbi Aaron Levy in his book, Sefer HaChinuch, that Shorshei HaMitzvah, that the roots of that mitzvah, or the fundamental idea behind that mitzvah, maybe that's the right word, the fundamental idea behind that mitzvah, that we're thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the livelihood that He's given us. And what is it? What many people eat is bread. So we're thanking Him for all of that. By that we're thanking, okay, we're basically doing atonement to all our sin, and we're hoping that the net income of this year will be much more, please God. That means if HaKadosh Baruch Hu pasken for us, that we, each one of us, that each Jew will have at least $10 million, that the net income from it will be 9.999, okay? And the 1% will go to tax and all the others. But the rest, the net income, okay, being judged when? On Pesach. And that's the secret behind the Korban Pesach, and that's why we do also what we call Kemach Chadash. I hope that I explained the idea and the fundamental idea behind it of the Kemach Chadash, not only the idea of the Kemach Chadash, when and how we pasken, and Be'ezrat Hashem, now that we know a little bit about the idea of Kemach Chadash, and we will be careful from the new flower Be'ezrat Hashem, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will guard us and will merit us to see, please God, Bi'at Mashiach Tzidkenu B'mera Be'amenu Amen Ken Yehi Ratzon. If there is any question, I would like to try and answer. B'chavod. Any
Can I ask
question?
you again? I don't want to monopolize the questions.
Sure.
I'm still very confused. Can I just give you, can you give us some today practical applications?
Yes.
For example, if I walk into the supermarket tomorrow and I pick up a box of crackers, what am I looking for?
Oh, very good. That's a question. Beautiful, Mark. If you saw that a box of crackers, okay, and in a box of crackers, it say that the box of crackers, today it's not a problem because Pesach has already passed. You understand? Because even if it's manufactured, listen to me, even if that manufacturer on the box say that it's been manufactured in February, today we in April, you follow? You agree with me? Huh?
Yeah.
But because we passed Pesach, I have no problem, because Pesach already telling me that that grain is kosher. That means it's a Kemach Yashan.
Yeah, but what happens if you said that that flour, if it was harvested in March last year or April last year?
No.
Is it not Yashan even for us now?
No, because that flour has already been harvested. When is the flour? When is become the problem?
When it's off, when harvest after Pesach.
No. When is the problem become in this country? When usually people harvest the field in this country? In November.
Okay.
Around November. So if you know that the harvest in November, okay, and it's been manufactured, for example, in December or in February or in January, whatever, it's before the Pesach, you can't eat from it. When are you allowed to eat from it? Only after Pesach pass. That means all the problem that we have in this country, it's very short time. It's November, usually, December, January, February, March. Because in April, it's already okay. And usually, already in March, it's okay because part of Pesach usually fall on March. So as long that we are 18 of Nisan, and that's the very important, the 18 of Nisan. It doesn't make the months. The 18 of Nisan in the diaspora, the 17 of Nisan in Eretz Israel. Why am I saying it? Because here it's not many months that you have to wait. Because usually the harvest, the flower when? November, December.
Okay,
until, I mean, the harvest, sorry, not the flower, the harvest, the wheat. The harvest, the wheat. Okay,
so what
until
happens?
Become ready, and usually you see when it's been manufactured.
So if we buy if I have a box of crackers in my cupboard that was manufactured before Pesach this year, and we know, must we assume that we can't eat it because it was harvested in November and
No, it doesn't
manufactured
different when it's
before?
harvested. No, it doesn't make a difference when it's been harvested. It's make a difference if you can eat it before the Pesach or after the Pesach. That's what you have to understand. That's the
So
fundamental
before
idea.
Pesach, if I ate it, I was eating a new flour.
That's it. If it's been harvested in November, December, January, and it can
Okay.
happen. It's
Yeah, I'm
But-
sure it has.
because I tell you why. Today everything is so commercialized, and everything is so. I'm almost sure that I'm not a farmer. Okay, don't hold me onto it. And that's what I say. It's the best thing is to look to on the list of the Beit Din, because on the list of the Beit Din they have idea when is that flour being made. But because today the food manufacturing, it's become such a commercial thing that I'm sure that from the moment that they harvest it to the moment that it's become flour and sending it, let's say, to baker to make a biscuit or to Sesco to make a bread, can be easily a month to 2 months. And that still, Pesach didn't pass. So therefore, it's a big.
So our big problem every year is more or less between November and Pesach in
That's
this
it.
country.
Exactly. Now you hit the nail on the head. So what's the best thing to do? Because usually by November, no, even before, I think in October already, the Beit Din start to release the list of the what do you call it, of the Kemach Yashan that you can use, the old flour that you can use, from which company and etc. They have the list.
Okay, thanks, Rav. I appreciate that.
Okay. I hope that I make it clear. I know that it's a bit complicated, but I
It is
try to go
complicated.
step by step. That's what when is the source of new flour. Then I explain what is a new flour, what is it make from the 5 crops that we explain. Again, I repeat, it's wheat, it's barley, it's oat, it's spelt, and it's rye. Okay,
Right.
those 5 grains. We have to remember, if it's something else, it doesn't make any difference. Okay, those the 5. Yes, Adam, bechavod, nice to see you with us. Adam, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Rabbi. Thanks, it's been fascinating. I just wanted to ask on Mark's question, just the last thing you said. So if it was harvested in, just one sec, I'm just going to pull up because I'm driving. Yeah, if it was harvested in November, I mean, not harvested, manufactured in November, why would the Beit Dins, what would the Beit Dins say then? They would say that it's Yashan, it's the old crop, so we can eat it until Pesach.
No, because if it's
new crop,
it's a new crops. Usually the problems start in November, December, January, February.
Of course. Okay, so they're harvesting the new crop from November onwards. So those months are questionable. So we should wait until after Pesach and then we can eat those.
Yeah, because we say, how did we decide what is a Kemach Yashan, what is a Kemach Chadash? So it's like this. Anything that been planted, okay, listen to that. Anything that be planted before the Pesach, and I brought example, like if it's been planted on Rosh Chodesh Adar, okay, just listen to it, okay?
Yeah.
And take 2 weeks to germinate, okay?
Right.
And then you harvest it, you dry it, and you make bread from it, okay? Because it germinates before the Pesach, after Pesach it's going to be okay.
So in other words, in some countries like Eretz Israel, you have to wait 6 or 7 months to be able to eat it.
No, Dafka the opposite here, because it's November, December, January, February, and March. It's almost 5 months. In Eretz Israel, you know, when they harvest the wheat, they harvest it now. You know why they harvest it now in Eretz Israel? Because now it starts to get warm. You follow? Because we harvest it when is our summer mainly, and the strong summer. You follow? You followed, you understand.
Thank you, Rob.
Because we're going to winter now, Nachon? We're going to winter now. You agree with me? And Eretz Israel, they're going now to summer. That means we're going to autumn, if you want to call it autumn. In Israel, they're going to go to spring, Nachon? Because usually Haga Aviv, Aviv is spring, it's Pesach. You understand? That's the I hope that
Thank you, Rob.
Pleasure. Adam, any question? I hope that I explained that.
Yeah, that's better. Thank you. Understand.
Okay, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. So we learn from here, let's summarize quick. We're learning that eating new flour, okay, in Eretz Israel, it's definitely from a prohibition from the Torah. We see that in the diaspora, it's also a prohibition from the Torah, according to Maran Shulchan Aruch, although that the Magen Avraham say, no, it's not a prohibition from the Torah, it's a rabbinical prohibition, but vice versa, it doesn't make a difference. We're not allowed to eat new grain until we know. So now we explain also the idea, the fundamental behind new flour. Any other question, Rabotai?
Anthony.
Hello, it's Anthony.
Oh, Antonio, I waited for you. I waited. How are you, Anthony?
I don't actually have a question on the subject, just a question. The Vilna Gaon was born 301 years ago. And where was he born? You say in Vilna, and you said another place. Where's the other possibility that he was born?
Then I understand what you're asking. Sorry, I couldn't understand. So there is a mahloket. There is a mahloket because it's not, just remember, there's many people tell you where they're born, but it's not sure because Vilna, okay, some people say born in Lita. Some people say he was born in Vilna himself, in the city of Vilna, okay? But it doesn't make a difference if he born in Vilna or he born in Lita, vice versa. The Gaon Vilna born in Europe. You know what I'm saying? I'm just giving you plus minus idea, you know, where he born, Rabbi Eliyahu Vilna, and he born around 301 years ago. Even those dates that I'm giving you, if you look, I say around. I'm not always specific about it, and I'll tell you why. Because you can never tell exactly if it was 303 or 304. It's very complicated. Only if we have sources, then you'll know exactly. You follow, Antonio?
I got it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Issur koach. Thank you, everyone. I hope to see you.
Thanks, Rob. That was most interesting.
Thank you. Be'ezrat Hashem, I'll see you on Tuesday. We'll do on Parashat HaShavua. We'll do the shiur on Parashat HaShavua. Rabot, I just want to mention something. Not this Thursday. The following Thursday is Lag BaOmer. Lag BaOmer fall on a Thursday. That means Lamed Gimel is on a Thursday night, Friday. And I don't know if you people, I don't know if you people want to do a shiur on Lag BaOmer, because I need to know if to prepare or not. If most of you have no problem with that, me personally have no problem to give a shiur on Lag BaOmer.
Yep, me too. No problem.
Everyone okay with that? Guys, please unmute and just say if you have no problem, because for me to prepare, it's take me many hours, you know, because I need to.
No problem, Rov. No problem.
No problem.
Okay,
And
so
we
guys,
appreciate it, Rob.
Yes.
Lag BaOmer.
Yes, thank you. Sounds great.
Pleasure. So we'll have a show on Lag BaOmer. I'll prepare a shiur because you're obviously going to be there, so I need to prepare. I just want to tell you something else before we close it. You remember 2 weeks ago I mentioned that we're doing Torah online. So we have a website that's called Nahar Torah, the River of Torah. We didn't launch it yet. It's going to be Daf Yomi every day. Rabota, you can join. We're going to launch it soon. It's already on the internet. Masan actually done the what do you call it, the web page, and it's going to be me. It's going to be other few Rabbonim, and it's going to be 2 of my Rabbonim that I consult all the time. My rabbi that I consult with halacha, psak halacha, they are the overseeing that Torah online. And also with that, there is my cousin that is one of the great spiritual rabbi in educational, that he agree that he will help us also. They're all from Eretz Israel if we have question. I'm gonna, Be'ezrat Hashem, gonna send all the details. One that we're gonna start launching it properly on Facebook. We're gonna send it. We're gonna send it all over to try to spread Torah online 24/7. Gonna be all different Rabbonim. It's gonna be also some rabbis in there that are gonna speak, and it's gonna be a lot of questions that you can ask the rabbi. Okay, and also. For the young women that have Shala in Taharat HaMishpacha, they can send it, and there is the explanation for purity. If they have question, obviously it will come to me. I'll have to look at it and I'll have to pasken. But what I'm saying, we're going to send soon, in the next 2 or 3 weeks, online that everyone can benefit from it. That will be plenty more shiurim, and it's all for free. Rabota, it's all for free. There's no charge for it. We depending on donation. There's some sponsors that we already managed to get that helping us to run it, because we have to run it, and we're going to launch it. So by Be'ezrat Hashem, you're all going to see that it's called Nahar Torah. If you want to look at it, it's already on the internet. It's called naharatorah.com. Naharatorah.com. You can look at it. If you print it, naharatorah.com, you can see it. So Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll have more opportunity for you to see and to learn more Torah 24/7. It will be shiur and chovat halevavot, the obligation of the heart. Will be a shiur for people that want to learn Hebrew lematchilim, Hebrew for beginners, free of charge. Listen to that, free of charge. Gonna be shiurim on Daf Yomi. Gonna be shiurim in Hashkafa. Gonna be shiurim on Parashat HaShavua that I bring, and different topics that I bring. There's other different shiurim that will be given with Rabbi Michael. Okay, that he gonna give also shiurim. Rabbi Moshe Hexhaus gonna give. Rabbi Goratna gonna give. Rabbi Chige gonna give. So it's going to be quite a bit of rabbis that you can benefit from them. Going to be a lot of shiurim. Please God, we hope to launch it in the next 2 weeks, maximum 3 weeks. We're just fixing all the little bits and pieces. It's already on the web. You can look at it. If you type Nahar Torah, naharatorah.com, you can see it. So in the meantime, to wish you all a good night, a beautiful week, and Be'ezrat Hashem, we should meet on coming Thursday on Parashat HaShavua. In the meantime, have a good night, everyone.
The word tov, Rav. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rav. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you. Ciao, ciao.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.